welcome to From Where We Are, stories of news and culture through the lens of USC and Southern California. I'm Joanna Bauerdorf, coming to you live from Studio B in USC's Annenberg Media Center.
And I'm Anthony Klingerman.
And so when there is no responsibility, no accountability, and no consequence, it leads to corruption.
It's Tuesday, September 19th.
On today's show, voter registration on campus,
A Black Lives Matter protest at LAPD, and a fashion event on campus.
all that and more
From where we are.
After these news headlines.
From Annenberg Radio News, I'm Abu Tafessa with 5 stories in 5 minutes. 5 quick hits so you'll know what's happening at home and around the world.
I want now to speak with all Canadians. Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Canada is a rule of law country. The protection of our citizens and defense of our sovereignty are fundamental.
Today, India expelled a senior Canadian diplomat after accusing Canada of interfering in its international affairs. This comes in response to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's allegations on Monday that India was involved in the killing of a Canadian Sikh separatist leader on Canadian soil. This is important because India's Prime Minister is running for re-election this April, and many analysts are saying Sikh separatists in the country and abroad will be a significant factor in Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's re-election effort. There are over 770,000 Sikhs in Canada, the largest of the religious minority group outside of India.
If you allow Ukraine to be carved up, is the independence of any nation secure? I'd respectfully suggest the answer is no. We have to stand up to this naked aggression today and deter other would-be aggressors tomorrow. That's why the United States, together with our allies and partners around the world, will continue to stand with the brave people of Ukraine as they defend their sovereignty and territorial integrity and their freedom.
Moments ago, President Joe Biden told world leaders at the annual UN General Assembly in New York that they must stand together against Russia. This comes in stark contrast to comments that many of his 2024 political opponents made at the last Republican debate. In national news, a plane carrying 5 Americans jailed in Iran has landed in the U.S. after what many are calling a controversial prisoner swap. The government paid $6 billion through South Korean banks as part of a deal to give Tehran access to the frozen oil revenues. Of the 5 prisoners, 1 had been held in Iranian custody for over 8 years. In California, some members of the middle class should expect to be surprised with a middle-class tax refund card arriving in their mail. According to the Franchise Tax Board, 5,000 payments that were never sent should be processed and sent by the end of September. Over $9 billion of tax refund cards have already been sent out. Yesterday, a 29-year-old man was arrested under suspicion of gunning down a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy. The suspect is accused of ambushing and shooting Deputy Ryan Lincolnboomer while sitting at a red light in his patrol car Saturday. Those were just 5 of today's top stories.
Today is National Voter Registration Day, and USC is celebrating by hosting several political organizations on campus to inform young voters. Mia Russman has the story.
Happy National Voter Registration Day. Today, September 19th, universities across the United States are making an effort to register young Americans to vote during this nonpartisan holiday. They are targeting students who will be eligible to vote for the first time in this coming election. USC hosted numerous political student organizations for a registration event on campus in Alumni Park. USC junior Sarah Steinecker is the president of Vote SC, a student organization with the goal to register as many Trojans as possible.
For a lot of people, we target a lot of freshmen because they're just turning 18 to register to vote and be civically engaged in society.
Students had the opportunity to stop and chat about all of their voting questions, including where to find their polling place, how to request an absentee ballot, and they could even score some free food in the meantime. Pablo Rodriguez is a freshman and newly eligible voter who stopped by the event before class and was impressed by the student initiative that he saw.
I feel like like a lot, like today you can see like there's a lot of young people who don't really like go out and do that, and seeing people do that here, especially like on campus, is just really cool.
These passionate students are driven to vote by many important issues, according to USC junior Edward Huang.
Well, I think climate change is a big issue. I think homelessness is a big issue. Obviously, affordable housing.
The event offered registration for all states, not just California. For Aria Martin of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, this was a chance to bridge political engagement from her hometown to USC.
And I think prioritizing like voting not only in the presidential election but also on the local level is really important, because that's what's going to have a direct, if not like a more influential impact on like the respective community that you're in.
Vernon Norman of the LA County Republican Party brings the legacy of voting into perspective.
You know, our parents, grandparents, grandparents, forefathers, if you will, all fought for their right to vote. And we all believe we have the right to vote. But I think it's important that we understand we also have a responsibility to be involved. That's really what they fought for, is for us to be involved in the process.
The future of our democracy rests in capable and motivated hands. If you missed the event today, no problem. You can visit www.voteusc.com and get registered to vote, no matter which state you live in. For Annenberg Media, I'm Mia Russman.
Back in my neck of the woods, the United Auto Workers have begun to strike across the Midwest to advocate for higher wages, and these efforts may soon expand to other locations. Nova Blanco Rico has that story.
Joining the trend of union strikes in America just early last week is the United Automobile Workers Union, or the UAW. The strike began in Michigan, Missouri, and Ohio last Thursday against the big three automakers Ford, Stellantis, and General Motors. Some of the demands from the union include wage increases, retiree medical benefits, more paid time off, and cost of living allowance increases. In California, this fight has been ongoing for a decade, according to President Jesse Ramirez of UAW's Local 230 in Ontario.
We gave up pay in 2008 during the bankruptcies. We gave up pensions. We gave up a lot of concessions to make sure our company would thrive, and all we got in return was jobs being outsourced and stagnant pay.
When asked if union workers would be willing to strike in Southern California, Ramirez said they're itching to picket.
The company is enjoying the fruit of our labor. You're seeing the CEOs making 400 times more than the members are, is just getting outrageous. But our members are ready and willing, and all we're waiting for is that phone call.
Union member Henry Salazar in Ontario, who works for Stellantis, wants to be able to enjoy his life and allow younger workers to have a chance to enjoy theirs.
They're like that. I want to live beautifully in California, enjoy my life where I grew up, and be able to enjoy the things now that I was able to enjoy in my 20s and my 30s, you know? And those younger workers that are coming up, they need to be able to experience those type of things that I was able to.
Salazar went on to say that union workers are tired of just working all their lives and deserve time for themselves. Thomas A. Lentz, professor at USC Gould School of Law, said in an email, a strike in California can have an economic impact that is a ripple effect.
Strikes affect the livelihoods of those who choose to stop working. To the extent those persons aren't earning money to spend, that means stores, restaurants, and other businesses might not be as busy. If a strike lasts a long time, bills might not get paid as easily, if at all.
Negotiations with the union and the three big companies will continue till Friday. For Annenberg Media, I'm Nova Blanco.
I'm Anthony Klingerman. We're glad you're with us for From Where We Are.
And I'm Joanna Bauerdorf. It's 9 minutes past the hour. Coming up, we go onto the scene of a Black Lives Matter protest and a conversation with the journalist who broke a crucial Annenberg Media story. Earlier this afternoon, students had fun and trendy moments at FIA's fashion fair in the McCarthy Quad. Khalif Starks has the story.
Students were able to find cute fall pieces for their closet at FIA's fashion fair today. USC students founded FIA, or the Fashion Industry Association to help style enthusiasts find community on campus. Former president and now vendor Toby shared more about FIA's founding at USC and his clothing brand, Don't Shoot. The inspiration behind his clothing brand came from his concern about how gun violence puts all Americans at risk.
I used to be president of this club, and when we started it, it was a very small thing with only a few vendors, and now there's so many vendors coming from different areas, and later in the day it gets like really packed and busy, so I'm happy it's still going on, and on top of that, I'm happy that I have clothes to sell and stuff like that, and just so I can be back on campus, see my baby kind of function.
Toby started Don't Shoot after being one of the creators of FIA on campus. Current co-president Simone Brown shared that she is excited for the exposure that today's fashion fair provided to local vendors and designers.
Had about 400 people in attendance at the show last year, so that's a lot of eyes on their pieces, and someone following their social media, all of that kind of thing. And then here, there's definitely exposure, but also sales. So we've talked to a lot of our vendors who say that they have a pretty good rate of sale here on campus.
Local vendor and owner of Sari Pinks, Kevin Mendoza, gave more insight about what makes this curated vintage clothing brand special.
Honestly, it's like one of those like one-stop shops. Like we have everything from every style, like anything dainty, goth, tops, bottoms, minis, dresses, anything that you really need, jackets, like whether you're someone who dresses more androgynous or someone who's more like, wants the cute, very like coquette, girly kind of things.
Fellow Trojan, Kevin Rome, raved about cost-efficient, friendly deals from the local vendor, Conversation Pieces.
Well, first thing that caught my eye was they have a $10 rack, and so that was obvious. Like I had to go to the $10 rack because that's where the best stuff is. But then also like after I started like browsing around, and I found like these cool patchwork pieces that like were really like interesting and like you could tell put a lot of work into.
USC freshman Alex Sketchwell thought the FIA Fashion Fair was a great alternative in helping support local vendors and designers instead of purchasing fashions from mainstream retailers.
It's hard to find local vendors if you don't know about them, so being able to collectively put all of them in one place is really awesome, and then it allows students to be able to like support local businesses rather than like super mainstream.
Local vendors and designers get to help us be cute and fashionable as we are just getting well into fall semester. For Annenberg Media, I'm Khalif Starks.
Members of Black Lives Matter united in front of the Los Angeles Police Department today to protest against the killing of multiple community members. Alexandra Goldberg was on the scene.
This morning, on the steps of the Los Angeles Police Department, community members had a clear message.
And we're here today to call for the removal of Michael Moore as chief of LAPD.
Black Lives Matter Los Angeles gathered with family members of victims shot and killed by the LAPD this year. A group of about 20 activists hosted a news conference before packing the police commissioner's meeting to put demands on Karen Bass and the police commission to fire Chief Michael Moore.
And so when there is no responsibility, no accountability, and no consequence, it leads to corruption. That's why it's time for Chief Moore to go.
That was Pastor Q, founder of the Church Without Walls congregation in downtown LA. Melina Abdullah, co-founder of BLM LA, said that this year, 27 Angelenos have been shot by the LAPD, and at least 17 have been killed.
17 people means 17 mothers. 17 people means 17 sisters and daughters. 17 people means 17 fathers and community members. 17 people means heartbreaks for 17 families.
Bianca Palmer is the sister of Jessica Brown, a 35-year-old woman who was shot and killed by police in Tarzana in July. Palmer made an emotional plea to the police commission to be vigilant about mental health. During the news conference, she spoke about her sister's death publicly for the first time.
She was like a mom to me. good to take care of us.
Community members also demanded that the police commission meetings be moved outside of the LAPD headquarters and have more accessible meeting times, like after work hours or on the weekends. BLM co-founder Abdullah said BLM is launching a petition today to fire LAPD Chief Michael Moore. With Annenberg Media, I'm Alexandra Goldberg.
Jules Feeney wrote an article for Annenberg Media on dropped charges involving 2 media center students accused of stealing jerseys at the NFL draft. He joins us today to discuss the challenges of reporting so close to home.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Jules. We wanted to start this conversation by asking you, how did you become so involved in telling this story?
Yeah, thanks for having me. The story came to me last week during my media center shift, and I was reporting another story, and my advisor for the class called me in and said, we've got a story you'd be great for. But before that, I was not involved or really aware of anything that had happened.
So what was kind of your overall experience on the story? In particular, what are some of the potential difficulties you may have faced during your reporting?
Yeah, so the big one would be obviously the potential conflict of interest on reporting on my own newsroom. But in terms of the reporting itself, it actually came pretty easily. People were returning my calls pretty quickly, and I spoke with the 2 students on the record for the first time.
Were there any potential conflicts of interest then that you had to avoid, or if you had any, how would you have gone about avoiding that?
Yeah, so the big one was that my advisor and editor on the story was Alan Middlestadt, and he has been involved with the students before they went and after they've returned, and sort of were navigating the legal consequences of what happened at the draft. And he was also my editor. So I had to make sure that I was sort of aware of his potential perspective and take that into consideration as I was reporting and writing the story.
So at the end of your story, you included an author's note that kind of had some disclaimers and other information. Why did you feel it was important to include that in the article?
Yeah, I think the big one is just about transparency, that especially when you're reporting on your own newsroom, obviously there are things that happen in the newsroom that aren't recorded, aren't part of the story. And so I wanted to make light of that in an attempt to clear up for readers and be transparent about the involvement of people who were in the story, including Christina Bellantoni, who's the director of the Media Center.
Our final question for you is, do you have any final piece of advice or things you would want other journalists to know if they're reporting on situations similar to this?
Yeah, I think in situations like this, it's extra important that you fact check and you corroborate any and all information that you possibly can. And if you include things that you can't corroborate, that you disclose that.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was Jules Feeney with Annenberg Media. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
And that's all we have time for on today's From Where We Are. Issa Johnson directed today's show. Ethan Huang and Nikki Burleson produced. Mallory Kara is our coach. We had help from Jordan Paul Slater, Malia Pittman, Sam Spitz, Amrita Vora, Grayson Solomon, Erica Driscoll, and Sana Mahmood.
Our board operator is Chris Babona. Our live stream manager is Wenxiao Kong. And Derek Renfro composed our theme music.
Catch us live on YouTube at Annenberg Radio News Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Subscribe to From Where We Are wherever you're listening right now. And finally, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Annenberg Radio. I'm Joanna Bauerdorf.
And I'm Anthony Klingerman. From all of us at Annenberg Radio, wherever you are, we hope you'll join us again for From Where We Are.